I have the honor to announce Germany's best fashion icon, coolest fashion icon, modern fashion icon. She is for me a constant source of inspiration. When she comes into the Burda bar, everyone looks at her, everyone. And you know, we do so many women magazines and we are very competitive in fashion, but she is our idol. Annette Weber, editor-in-chief of InStyle, very successful editor-in-chief. Please come on stage.
Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my panel. When Steffi Czerny approached me with the idea that I could be the presenter of the panel, I was really overjoyed and immediately said yes because of my two fellow panelists. Would you please come on the stage, Laudomia Pucci and Mary Katrantzou. I think we can sit. Mary Katrantzou's brand is one of the fastest growing fashion brands in recent history. It's a label that was detected by InStyle early, and it's one of the favorite brands of my young editors. And Laudomia, I have to say, I'm a Pucci fan. You know, there are labels you respect and there are labels you love. And Pucci is really a label that I love. I have this, we talked about this, I have a neoprene aqua blue cocktail dress. I bought it like 8 seasons, 4 Sommer ago in Saint-Tropez. And I was thinking, when do you wear Pucci? You wear it always on grand vacations, in Capri, in Saint-Tropez, in Portofino, in Porto Cervo. And I think this is part of the heritage of Pucci because it's a jet-set brand. Your father, the Conte Emilio, founded it like in 1947. The Puccis are one of the oldest noble families in Florence. You own a magnificent palazzo there. And your father, I think the success of Pucci is fueled by the magnificent prints and the bold colors inspired by Mediterranean Italy, aqua blue, turquoise, lilac. And Pucci now belongs to with nearly 70% to the 67% to LVMH Group, and you are the image director and deputy chairman. Let me briefly introduce Mary. Mary Katrantzou lives she was born in Athens and lives in London. She founded her brand in 2008, and she first started architecture and then switched to textile design at the famous Central St. Martin's School of Art. And her success lies also in her famous, of course, the architectural designs and silhouettes, but of course the photo print patterns with the 3D effects. And the Wall Street Journal said to this prints, it's the biggest fashion revolution of the 21st century. So between the birth of your prints and between the birth of your prints lies 60 years and the digital revolution. So how did your father, the Prince of Prince, how they called him, design the famous Pucci patterns, and how do you draw your patterns?
Should I start? Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction. It's absolutely impeccable, and you really placed Pucci where it should be, and thank you so much for the researcher, curiosity, and passion. What can I say? My father started in 1947. He was still an officer of Italian aviation at the time, and he certainly had no idea that he wanted to go into fashion or he would become a fashion designer. It was, of course, the post-war period, the Reconstruction, and there is a very nice book that talks about the Reconstruction in Europe after World War II, and there are chapters for different countries, and they actually state that Italy was reborn with my father's colors, and I think that was a fantastic compliment. And in a way, he applied to women what he knew and had experienced in his previous years. Just to place the age of the founder, he was born in 1914, so we are talking of, you know, somebody who lived fully last century. He had been an Olympic skier before the war, and as I said, a pilot of the Italian Air Force. So when he started designing by chance, it was a ski suit that he actually lended to a friend that had elastic inside. What did that mean? He was interested in movement of the body, and liberating women. And today we are here, of course, in DLD. We heard a lot about women's liberation in the 60s. But my father started from the late 40s to think that women had to move and live exactly like men. He introduced pants and shirts that in those days were certainly not the flavor of the day, because we are talking of the same years of Dior's new look. That's something very, very different for those who know fashion. And I'll just specify for those who are a little less familiar, it was, of course, high heels, tiny waists, and big skirts. And we were running around with capri pants and shirts. So it was the resort feel, it was the jet set, but it was a relaxed sportswear of those years. How did he start designing prints? By chance. He was into shapes, he was into textile research, he was into a modern lifestyle. And at some point, he thought it was fun to illustrate what he was seeing. What was he seeing? He was seeing the island of Capri. He was seeing the Dome of Florence. He was seeing the Palio of Siena raised with beautiful drapeaus or flags. And so he started picking up illustrations of the culture of Italy. And it was only in the early 50s, in fact, that Stanley Marcus, at the time the head of Neiman Marcus, an owner, told Emilio, you know, it's time that you put your prints on the ready-to-wear, and started like that. So it was actually translating the beauties of the architecture and the arts of Italy through hand design. And we have today in the archives beautiful designs done by my father, little sketches, where he was very, very detailed about everything. And the little signature, Emilio, came immediately on it, and he had a little hand that was the hand and was explaining this and that of the print. It was a bit like, how should I say, maybe a very naive decor, I would say, in the beginnings, yes.
And Mary, how do you develop your prints 60 years later? The digital prints, the photo prints?
I think when I started studying architecture, so in a way I was interested by the filter beauty found within design. So never did I think I'd be looking at surface design or textiles, and slowly that transition happened because I felt there was something very transferable with a visual language that could be inspired by anything beautiful, be it industrial design or jewelry or interiors or anything that can capture your imagination, but allow a woman to wear it. But at that time, digital printing was really at the very, very beginning. So I felt very frustrated as a student because I had all these ideas in my mind of how I wanted to translate a print, but no technical knowledge or ability to put that into something tangible. So I think it was that time where you saw the digital revolution, like you mentioned, become a tool in the hands of a designer to create a print that was never really photographic. A lot of people feel I use digital printing in a very photographic way, whereas in reality it's a very hyper-real way of using design as a motif. And I think that's where it all started, doing an oversized piece of jewelry that you'd never be able to wear because of its scale or because of its heaviness, its weight, or its cost. And that manifested itself into perfume bottles, blown glass, interiors, lampshades, objects of art, everyday objects. And I think you can make something beautiful in a print out of anything. And I think as there were more and more advances in technology, you could use print in a way that still has that tradition of something very hand-painted, but at the same time be able to make it so commercially viable that you can showcase it in all its manifestations. So I think being a part of that advance that happened in print allowed me to develop my signature. Which is partly, like you said, the structure, and but also at the same time color and form and texture.
Speaking about the internet, as I mentioned, I buy my Pucci dresses still in the shops like in Saint-Tropez or in Cannes. They really have a good selection there. But my young editors, they all shop online. Like they shop Mary Katrantzou at My Theresa or at Net-a-Porter and Style Bob and so on. How important is the balance between online sales and offline sales?
Well, we've been probably the first to go online with Pucci.com, meaning that we were not just selling accessories, but exactly the same buy that we were doing for our stores. And the pattern of sales we've seen offline and online are identical. And this is really interesting. The second thing is, this was in 2007, I think. Things have changed so much and so fast. And today, I think offline and online are necessary. In percentage, of course, the online grows between 25 and 30% a year, so very rapidly. However, it's not only a question of buying, but it's also a question of informing your customer. Sometimes they see the product in the boutique, then they buy it online, vice versa. They study it online, and then they buy it in the boutique. And I think that the service becomes very, very important in the information about the clothing, because, of course, you're giving more means of informing your customer, and the service of delivering fast, exchanging, I think today is very expected.
For us as well, since I started, probably the online part of a business is about 17% of our total business, and it as well grows really rapidly. And I find that because online you don't need to merchandise it, and because I don't have the range or a retail store where you can merchandise it in a way that they can buy into print and non-print, and they can mix it up. Online really helps us because you see a dress that stands out in a page, hopefully because of its color and because there's a lot of monochrome as well. So it entices a woman to click on it and look at it because it's so bold in its design. So I think that's why for us the online business has grown so fast.
Yeah.
And it's also why we made a decision, instead of opening a retail shop, which we're not ready, to open our own e-shop, which we're working on now. So I think it's a very important part of our business, certainly, and a really growing one.
And I would just like to add, I mean, you were talking of your young editors, but I think that women today, especially when they are working and traveling, they don't have time. So, of course, to be able to sit at home and basically get a private service because you've got everything shipped to your house, you can try it. You can have your best friend or your husband telling you look great, and spend the money happily at home is a great service, and that, I think, is great for women.
Yeah, that's of course true. And a part of your label's popularity is based on the fact that a lot of celebrities are wearing your designs. Like Pucci is historically a brand of the stars. I think Marilyn Monroe is even buried in a Pucci dress. Then you have names like Jacqueline Kennedy and Sophia Loren. Today you have Mette-Marit of Norway. You have Victoria Beckham and Keira Knightley, Claudia Schiffer and Solange Knowles. I mean, you can name it. How important is the support of celebrities Will it continue? And what about the new rising stars of fashion business? Bloggers like Leandra Medin or street stylers like Eleonora Carisi and editors like Karin Reutfeld or Anna Della Russo.
What can I say? I say that for Pucci, it was very funny because if you would ask my father, what about celebrities, he would never refer to a name, and he would only say, I'm in this business to dress women and to make them beautiful. So I don't care if they're a celebrity or not, and I think that was a very democratic approach and a very nice approach to women. Having said this, he was very proud that Marilyn Monroe wore his silk jerseys, and to the extent that the American market had told my father when he developed from a very thin silk collant, the silk jersey, the American buyer said, absolutely not. No American woman will be caught wearing that fabric. And actually, Marilyn Monroe wore it and met her husband wearing it. And for her, in her private time, she used to wear Pucci. And funnily enough, I was just telling before our friends that the only chapter in the auction of Christie's in the year 2000 of designers from the Marilyn Monroe estate was Pucci, and we were able to buy back her clothes, some of her clothes. It was great. You could see her body was really, really tiny, and it's quite impressive. So having said that, it's key to have the top girls wearing Pucci today and yesterday. I think it's, people can relate to it, people can look up at it, that people can emulate. In the old days, probably was a little bit more spontaneous. The women used to be friends or clients. Today it's become an industry. You have to address the industry. I think it's important, and I think it's important to roll out different kinds of celebrities, young ones, older ones, bloggers. I think you have to be able to adapt your collection and your vision to different kinds of women, and of course with different kinds of clothes in the different moments.
But I want to stay a little bit with the bloggers. How do you see their role in fashion business? The bloggers, the street stylers, the editors.
I think I can speak a little bit about when I first started, because I think as a young designer, you haven't even formed really an opinion of what your work is about. And there's people already making assumptions of what you're about, who wears your clothes, how they wear your clothes. And to a certain extent, I think it helps you morph into a designer, because sometimes they have a very refined aesthetic and they understand fashion. So when you're talking about bloggers who have more of a personal blog, you kind of get a glimpse of your times and where you fit within them. So I think as a designer that's just starting, it's a risky, obviously, game, because it might lead you to the wrong assumption of what your brand could be about, or at the same time it can inform your vision, which is important. And I think as well, when you don't have an advertising budget and you're not marketing your work in that way, having people who wear the clothes really well and have that base who's following them, like Leandra. Leandra is fantastic. She has a great style. She's a very smart girl. And I think, you know, when she believes in something, how she can touch people and how that gets communicated.
Leandra Medin is from The Man Repeller, a famous blog in the US.
I mean, and so many more. I just mentioned Leandra because I know her and I think she's great. But same with celebrity. When I first started my brand, print was taboo again. It wasn't those days where, you know, women were wearing print so freely on the red carpet. So privately, of course, on holiday, but not a celebrity on the red carpet. It was a little bit becoming taboo, and maybe they were a bit scared because it's such a visual piece to wear. And I remember where Keira Knightley wore it at the Venice Film Festival. It was a slight shift that even I thought, oh, you know, you can wear it in a very elegant and a very timeless way. And I think celebrities have that power to shift the perception of people around your work. So when you get it right, it definitely can help broaden your audience. And I think print has a very broad audience. We dress, I'm sure it's the same with Pucci, very young girls to women in their 70s.
That's the magic of this product, I think, because it's a question of I think it's contagious happiness or something that girls love and relate to.
Mary, you brought literally color back into the fashion focus.
I don't know if I can take full responsibility for that.
Yes,
but-
I think so, or we think so. And but if you offer bold patterns, that's one thing. You need a customer that truly understands what is the meaning behind this. Why do modern day women crave for these kind of bold colors, bright and sparkling patterns?
I think it's a twofold answer. I was, and maybe it's relevant to the conference. When I first started, people were saying I'm trying to objectify the woman and turn her into a typewriter, a perfume bottle, a room. And I said, no, guys, it's not about that. It's about finding beauty in the most mundane or the most beautiful design and allowing a woman to feel liberated enough to wear something that she considers beautiful and is extension of her aesthetic and her taste. And I think people buy fashion as collectors in our times, that they look at something beautiful that they want to have in their wardrobe and collect as they would a beautiful painting or a beautiful piece of ceramic or whatever it is. And so they, I think, want to enter a room and make a statement that goes beyond their fashion taste. It says a lot about themselves, and print can do that. It can be, I think, as definitive as a cut or a drape.
And Laudomia Pucci is deemed the epitome of cool since 60 years. I mean, it's one thing to establish a new brand, but to maintain it, to maintain the coolness is another thing. What are the challenges and how did you manage it?
Well, it's an enormous compliment, thank you. I think what's very important is two things. First of all, when founders of that importance, like my father, like Mr. Hubert de Givenchy, Mr. Saint Laurent, and so on and so forth, established those brands, it was a very different moment in fashion, as we all know. And they really had a vision that was bigger than life. And therefore, to work with them and then after them keep their legacy alive is tremendously difficult. What is needed to understand the brand first and foremost, probably not be too ambitious, because if you are too ambitious, you're going after the business aspect, but you're not preserving the heart of the brand. Thirdly, I think it's key, and this is the reason why probably we decided on a partnership with LVMH, is to have fresh young talent. Unfortunately, fashion houses are a little bit like vampires. They love fresh talent, and we definitely need fresh talent. And I always encourage, I enjoy working with the very young. I'm very interested in the opinion of the young ones. I try and listen. I think that carrying our brands ahead is part of our duty. And the girls of today make it relevant. It's not the girls of yesterday. So you're just looking ahead.
Unfortunately, I think we're running a little bit out of time. So just in brief, some personal questions. Mary, you owe your career to a funny coincidence. During a holiday, you met your boyfriend in Athens, and he convinced you to move to London.
He did.
Please, could you tell us this romantic story in brief and maybe explain us which lesson you draw out of this experience and what would you recommend young women at the beginning of their career?
I'll try to relate it to what I think part of this conference is about. And I did meet a guy during my holiday in Greece, and I was studying at the moment in the US. I thought I wanted to be an architect. I was very ambitious, very driven about it. And we had a nice summer together, and then he started posing or putting ideas in my head that he's going to go, he was studying medicine, he's a neurologist, and he was going to go and do his PhD in London. So he started saying, I have 7 years of studies, I can't throw it all away, you've only had 1 year, you should go there, you're the one young one, you should wait for me. And as an independent woman, I felt, what is he talking about? I'm ready to be an architect. I'm doing so well. I'm never going to do that. So I go back to the US, and we're speaking on the phone, and I'm feeling more and more drawn to him. And I thought, okay, I always wanted to go to Central St. Martin, so I'll take a transfer course for 3 months. And then if he comes, he comes. If not, I'm off again. I'm back to my architecture course. So I go there. I spent 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, still waiting for this guy. Huge resentment, but obviously I'm still very much in love. I'm at the same time enjoying working, starting to feel more inspired by textile design and print, and I'm loving London, and I've developed different friendships there. And he finally, 3 years later, arrives in London doing his PhD, like we thought we would. And I think that's when I had a shift. I became a lot more driven and ambitious with going into fashion. I was surrounded by people who wanted to be fashion designers since the age of 15, and I was really hardworking and really committed, and at some point I thought, why not me? I could do this too. So I very naively started my business. I'm still with the same boyfriend ever since. Same guy.
Congratulations.
And then you kind of juggle both, but I think you need to feel inspired and you need to feel complete to put so much focus on what you do on your work. So I wouldn't want it any other way, I don't think.
Laudomia, you are married, you have 3 children in their teens. How do you maintain your work-life balance?
Well, I have 2 children in the teens and 1 of 9. So I'm an old mother, going back to the discussion of before, but I didn't freeze eggs, and I walked. Not yet. However, having said this, we are showing you a little video of how much handwork goes in to doing our printing. I think it would be interesting for you to understand how advanced is the technology that Marie uses, that of course we use too, but we still very much use the classical, typical way of printing in the north of Italy that's very, very close to my heart and to the Made in Italy, that basically was somewhat launched by my family. And it's very hand-intensive. So going back to my kids and my life and my private life and my professional life, I've never made any difference. It's all the same. My office is in my house, my kids are in the house, my husband comes and goes, the prints are there, the designers come, the managers go, I'm fine, and I'm very happy with it.
So ladies, here we go. Let's do it this or that way. I think our panel is coming to an end now. And I want to thank you cordially for this immensely interesting and funny and really also inspirational talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.